Hi, this Cut from Military Podcast. You know, why civilian life is so hard for us and why brotherhood matters to us, having a tribe. A lot of people think PTSD is about fear. It's not. PTSD is a survival system that worked too well and for too long. For many veterans, the hardest part wasn't combat, it was coming home. And I know I struggled with that when I came home. You know, why is civilian life so hard for us? You know, in the military, life is simple, not easy, but simple. You know your role, you know who has your back, and you know your purpose, and it's pretty clear. In civilian life, it's different. The rules change, purpose is kind of vague, threats are emotional instead of physical. You know, thinking about that, in combat, hypervigilance keeps you alive. In civilian life, it kind of wears you down, and it wears you down quite a bit. You know what PTSD really is? PTSD isn't about a memory problem. It's a nervous system that doesn't know when to stand down or shut off. You know, you can know you're safe, but it's still you don't feel safe, if that makes any sense. You know, we're always alert. We have trouble relaxing. Silence feels kind of wrong. You know, why relationship and work feel off? You know, I've struggled with relationships. Veterans aren't broken. Civilian systems weren't built for people trained for intensity and responsibility. Civilians change jobs, and veterans lose identity is our problem. Why brotherhood matters. Civilians think friendship is about social stuff, and veterans, it's a brotherhood, it's biological. We learned to be safe through others. Survival was a collective thing for us. Civilians bond over hobbies and veterans bond over survival. We need that. You know, the cost of losing the tribe. Most veterans don't miss war, they miss belonging. Isolating keeps the nervous system stuck in survival mode, and that's been a big problem. You know, you don't need a whole platoon, you need one or two people who understand the silence and what you're going through. You know, when one brother who gets it, that's enough, because we all know what's going on inside of us. You know, I talked to a brother last night, you know, and it's really tough for us. You know, if you're struggling in civilian life, you're not weak. You know, you weren't trained to be in civilian life. You had a purpose in the military life. It was a brotherhood. You know, we've never meant to be alone when we get out. And that's a big problem. We need that brotherhood because it's all about survival. Civilians don't understand that. And that's a big problem. Take care.